All right, so in free agency, there are often a lot of smart teams that make smart decisions, and even some dumb teams that make smart decisions. So let's talk about 7 smart decisions here. These are my 7 favorite contracts of the 2025 free agency period so far. Of course, there are still players to be signed, and there will still be some good and bad deals after I make both this one and my worst signings video. But still, let's get into it. And I just want to clarify before we get into it that this is not the 7 best players who have signed with a new team. I am factoring in the contract details. So this is teams that have not only gotten good players, but have gotten good players for less than the value that they're going to bring to the table. So yeah, let's just get into it. Number 7 is Morgan Moses. And listen, I understand that there's only so much excitement that signing a 34-year-old veteran tackle who's never really been a superstar is going to bring to the table. But I actually really like Morgan Moses. And I think that signing him has been something that smart teams have done year after year. He's been a bit of a journeyman, but ultimately, it's the kind of thing where a lot of times teams will go out and try to draft a guy in the first round, and it'll take 2 years to develop him, and then maybe finally they get that player good, but maybe they don't. Or if they do get him good, now you have to start paying him a big contract. Or you could just sign a Morgan Moses, who's like an effective tackle. Yeah, he's had a little bit of injuries, and that's the knock on him. But he's an effective tackle and should help out this offensive line for the Patriots that desperately needs to be helped out. So ultimately, again, not the flashiest move, but a smart move for the Patriots to add an offensive lineman. Next up is Najee Harris at 6 to the Chargers. And didn't we just do this with the whole running back value thing? I guess we all thought that with the Saquon Barkley thing, guys were going to go out and start paying running backs big contracts. That did not seemingly happen, as a lot of running backs, maybe haven't gotten the attention that they were hoping that they would get. Najee Harris, only a 1-year, $5 million deal for a guy who's still 27 and has consistently been able to play a lot for the Steelers and has consistently played well. I think he's an underrated back. I think he's good. So I don't know. I mean, listen, I get that there are more exciting running backs. Like his top 10 plays aren't quite as exciting as, maybe, I don't know, whoever top running back you want to say. And I don't think Najee Harris is a top 5 running back, but he's a very effective running back who's going to play really well in that scheme. And for only a $5 million contract, this is why, again, someone's going to draft a running back in the top 15 of the draft, and maybe that'll work out better. I'm not saying it won't, but you have Najee Harris, who is going to be an effective running back for you, and you're only spending $5 million to make it happen. To me, this is just smart business by the Chargers. Number 5 is the Chicago Bears signing Drew Dalman, formerly of the Atlanta Falcons, now goes to the Chicago Bears on a 3-year, $14 million a year deal. $28 million of that is guaranteed, which I just have to say, again, you see some of these contracts that tackles are getting, and even guards are getting significantly more money for players that aren't even really that great. Drew Dalman is one of the best centers in football. Now, only 500 snaps last year. That's going to dock his stock a little bit, but he had 900 in 2023 and has been PFF's 3rd and 4th highest graded center in those 2 years. I mean, you'll take that. And for only $14 million a year, it's really just I think a bit of a sweetheart deal, if we're being honest. I mean, I don't. It's centers continue to be undervalued. Centers matter a lot. There's a lot of stats that back up the fact that pretty much every offensive line position is equally important when it comes to helping you win football games, and I think that's what the Bears want to do, is try and win football games. So yeah, they did a lot of, I really liked all of their interior offensive line moves, but only one of them was a signing, so the Drew Dalman one gets the credit here. Number 4, I have Nate Hobbs, a move that I really liked. I think he's an underrated player, still just 25 years old, only getting $12 million a year on a 4-year deal. Only $16 million of this is guaranteed. So this is basically a no-risk contract after the first year. Hobbs kind of betting on himself a little bit, signing this deal, saying that they'll want to keep me after this year. And this is the move you don't make unless you're going to keep him in the slot, trust that he can play there. And to be honest, slot corners are another position I think is just undervalued. I get that the reason why you value outside corner more obviously makes sense, because if they get burned, it's a 50-yard touchdown. If Nate Hobbs gets burned, it's a 20-yard completion. But like, okay, the average play is not a 50-yard touchdown. You need to be able to stop the average play, and especially with how teams attack over the middle, having a guy who can cover that for the Packers. I can't remember if I mentioned the Packers were the ones who signed it, but yeah, for the Packers making this signing, to me it just makes a lot of sense. And so yeah, I'm all about the Nate Hobbs signing. I think it's a smart one. Next up, we have Josh Sweat here at number 3 on the list. Josh Sweat coming off of one of his best games as a pro in the Super Bowl when he had multiple big plays as an edge rusher for the Eagles. A couple of sacks in that one, was really a force. And now he signs a 4-year, $19.1 million a year deal with the Arizona Cardinals, $41 million guaranteed. So get some solid guaranteed money here, but still feels like he could have maybe gotten more. I'm surprised he was not a $20 million a year player when you look at Milton Williams getting $26 million a year. I mean, it feels like Josh Sweat, who usually teams value the edge position a little bit more, feels, I mean, in fairness, Williams is also younger, so I get that. But, you know, Josh Sweat's still 27. He'll be 28 next year. Like, he's not old, and he'll be able to play through this entire contract at the very least. He knows the system well, because it's the same system that he played. The head coach of the Cardinals used to be the defensive coordinator of the Eagles when Sweat was there. So, you know, and honestly, Sweat probably had his best year in 2022 when he was in that system. So, it just feels like a move that's going to work out. The Cardinals could really use an edge rusher, and for a reasonable deal. Like, I think this is the one that every team that signed an edge rusher is kind of like, as a Tampa Bay fan, I'm kind of like, I like this Hassan Reddick signing, but really $5 million more, and we could have gotten Josh Sweat. I feel like that's how every team that signed an edge rusher feels, because Sweat's, I think he was the top edge rusher on the board and doesn't sign for a crazy deal. Well, I brought up being a Tampa Bay fan. Okay, my one homer take, I suppose. Although I don't think this is. I think hopefully people will agree with this one. Chris Godwin at number 2. This is my only re-signing on this list. And the reason why is just because I just think it's a pretty like sweetheart deal, to be honest. Reportedly, he took $20 million less to not sign with the Patriots and instead sign with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think Godwin's one of those guys where people think he's older than he is. He just turned 29, so he's going to be 29 next year. He's basically the same age as Josh Sweat. Receivers don't always age gracefully. I understand all of that. But on a 3-year deal, he should be effective for all 3 of those years. He is coming off of an injury, but it's an ankle injury. It's not an Achilles injury or something like that, usually you can bounce back from that kind of injury. So I wouldn't be too worried there. And he was just a dominant player. I mean, he was up top the list in receiving yards last year before the injury happened. And while Liam Cohen was a part of that, and he won't be there, they still do have a, they hired from within. It's going to be a similar system. He should be an effective player, I would say. So ultimately, again, $22 million a year for a receiver who, yes, there are some concerns with age and with injury, but for a player who can be a number 1 caliber receiver and was playing like that before he got injured last year, that's kind of a steal, I think. So yeah, big fan of that move. Number 1 on this list, Jevon Holland, who, this was a real surprise for me. When there were some of these free agent moves that happened, and like the Trayvon Moehrig move, he gets paid, $17 million a year, and I think I might have even said in my video of that, like, man, Jevon Holland, he's about to break the bank right here. Cameron Bynum got $15 million. Hufanga, who has injury issues, he got $15 million. Like, okay, a lot of guys getting the $15 million a year. Maybe we thought Holland was going to get a little bit more than that. Like, he was projected to get $20 million a year. He's probably going to get like $25 million a year. No, he only gets $15 million a year on a 3-year deal, $30 million guaranteed with the New York Giants. And listen, he's been kind of someone who's had some inconsistencies, right? He hasn't been an elite player year after year, but also safety is a very, a position that is dependent on the talent around you. And if you, don't have great talent around you, you have to cover more space and aren't going to look as good. Now, I don't know how great the Giants' defense will be. They did add Paulson Adebo as well, so this is not the only move that they have made to help improve that. But ultimately, I feel like whether you're getting Jevon Holland, if you're getting Jevon Holland at his worst, you're getting a $15 million a year player. That's at his worst. And if you're getting him at his best, you're getting a significantly better player than that. and you're still going to pay him the $15 million a year. I haven't always been too complimentary of the Giants over the years because I don't think they've always made great moves. But getting a 25-year-old safety who is like a top 3 or 4 safety in the league, in my opinion, for just $15 million a year, I don't get this one. This feels like a massive steal for the Giants. So that's why it's number 1 on my list. But yeah, those are my thoughts. What are yours? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.